Yeah, so today we're gonna get really just right in started on it. And okay. So today we're really just gonna get started into it, and the video is basically just about why I don't watch Brittany Broski anymore. And it's been about 5 months since I last watched any of her content. I kind of focused more on watching the podcast that she has and watching like the Royal Court and like I think even her main channel videos I didn't really enjoy that much. I don't know why, it just wasn't really like my cup of tea. I watched some of them, but for me personally, I really like the podcast format. I like podcasts. I like when podcasts feel like they're kind of like an authentic conversation, sometimes between people or just like someone on their own. That's kind of the heart of like what I like. Now, when it comes to why I stopped watching Brittany Broski, something I really didn't like about her was, we're gonna get right into it, chastising people and shaming them for how they use their platform and why they don't speak up about important issues in politics when they have an audience. She specifically talked about how it's very problematic to her when you have an audience, you have the privilege of having the ear of other people, and then not using that to bring awareness to terrible things that are going on in the world, America. I don't know if she specified where it should be, but she kind of just talked about that, right?
If you can, why don't you? If you have a platform and you have people's ear, you have their attention, how dare you not? How dare you not sing about things that matter? How dare you not show things that are hard to watch for some people and hard to embrace for more people? How dare you not do that? It is a responsibility that you have.
And then she was kind of really hypocritical about it and was whinging on her personal Instagram stories, which is exclusive to her friends, and somebody leaked this video. There's this video that started going around of her talking about how people were begging for her to talk about Israel-Palestine. Yeah, 2 minutes in, we're already talking about Israel-Palestine, but, and she was like, oh, it's all because I have a blue check mark and 1 million followers that people are begging me to talk about Israel-Palestine? And it's like, girl, you know why people are asking you to talk about Israel-Palestine, like, come on.
A, segment to put at the beginning of next week's podcast episode, addressing the situation in the Middle East. What fucking dystopian universe? Sorry, it's not funny, but it's absurd. What dystopian universe do I have to address the situation in the Middle East at the top of a podcast episode?
No, I didn't ask you to tell me the biggest fucking bummer news in the world.
It is literally the scene from Inside by Bo Burnham. Who are you, wheat thins? Do you stand with the Palestinians? That's how I fucking, it is, in what universe am I a voice to speak on this? I am the opposite of the person that should be speaking on this. But because I have a check mark and I have over 1 million, immediately I'm qualified. It is literally, I can't.
I feel like I get that she was venting at the time and it was supposed to be something that was private, not public, but oh my god, I wonder who the hell did that? Who leaked her private Instagram stories that's just meant for friends? Which friend did that? Somebody on her close friends list is not her friend for doing that. I think it's just that she kind of proceeded to not follow her own terms, where she's like chastising other creators and kind of calling out people and being like, use your damn platform, and then she herself is like, I don't feel comfortable talking about Israel-Palestine. Personally, for me, I don't get my information solely from online creators. I actually follow quite a lot of people who are apolitical, don't talk about politics. Me personally, I talk about politics sometimes. I'm kind of in there just because I guess I have an interest. I guess I wouldn't be covering it if I wasn't interested in it. I've talked about a whole bunch of different things. I think there's a lot of problems with the whole, like, you need to talk about this, you need to talk about that, and it's gonna sound kind of counterproductive to be even saying it like this, I guess, but I'm making this video because this is what I think, and not what I think people want to hear, because I'm about, like, actually talking about what I think. I don't want to go looking at a Reddit and going, oh yeah, that's a good point, oh that's what people want to hear, oh yeah, okay, that'll get me upvotes. I don't fucking care about that. God, I'm swearing again. I need to stop swearing. So my problem with that is, you get a creator and you're like, oh, you need to talk about the thing. And the thing could be anything. The thing could be something that's like, everyone's talking about it, it's all over social media, people are enraged by it, and it's like, if you don't talk about this specific thing, it means that you are actually for the bad thing, and you're a bad person. And then I feel like that kind of creates a slippery slope, not to be fallacious over here, make a fallacy argument, but it kind of is weird to me that people have that energy for certain topics, and then there are other topics that people just don't seem to really care about. And for me personally, I've talked about some specific, like, kind of, I guess you could say, niche political things that I don't see anyone else talking about, to be frank with you. I find it very fucking interesting that people talk about Israel, Palestine, the genocide that's happening there, people talk about Ukraine and Russia, and I feel like there's so many things going on in the world that it's so hard to chastise someone or to berate someone just because they're not talking about everything. And it's a really crappy thing that's going on in the world because there's so many things, and it feels crappy to be like, well, I don't want to talk about every single thing going wrong. That's a privilege thing? It sure is. It sure bloody is. I'm trying really hard not to swear right now. But the thing is like, yeah, there's things happening in Yemen, there's things happening in all over the Middle East, there's things happening in Tibet. I made a video about what's happening in Tibet, and no one is outraged about that kind of stuff. In fact, I got called a CIA agent, okay? I mean, yeah, people will be like, oh, well, Brittany didn't talk about Israel, Palestine, yada, yada, yada. But it's like, so are we going to start saying that to, like, everything? Why is it this one thing that we're, like, cancelling her over? But I will say, I think a big part of that whole thing is she kind of shot herself in the foot a little bit, metaphorically. If she goes on this whole tirade and this whole rant about how, oh, I'm the person, I'm going to talk about everything, and there is no holds barred, and I'm going to talk about this and that, and I'm a, you know, liberated person, and then just, like, something really big is happening, people's liberties are being fudged over, and then, it's just it's a really crappy situation what's happening over there, right? Everyone can agree to that. And so when you kind of just don't say anything and people keep saying, hey, you gonna talk about this? I can understand that people get kind of frustrated with that. People get kind of upset and people kind of start thinking like, well, what is your opinion? What is your stance on that? And I think that it's fair for Brittany to be like, listen, I want to be more informed about this. I want to learn more about it. It's a very complicated thing. But at the same time, I also think that in a situation like Israel and Palestine, I think there's nothing wrong with at least trying to support aid for the innocent civilians. If no matter what your political view on, like, the Israeli government, the IDF, and the I guess people call the IOF, which I always forget what that even stands for, but people are against, like, the IDF. People are against Hamas, and I think that no matter what your political stance on those things are, I think everyone kind of agrees that innocent people should not be, like, hurt. And if we can do something about protecting innocent civilians or bringing them aid, I think Brittany very easily could have just been like, listen, here's how you can support them with aid and yada yada. There's a terrible thing going on right now, you know, like, I think no matter what way you look at it, it's kind of hard to not be like, hey, you know what? Palestinians kind of deserve self-determination, right? They deserve to have their own space, their own place. You know, there's already plenty of different cultures that don't even have their own country, and I feel like, you know, it's only fair to give Palestine at least somewhere to be, you know? I mean, we're not going to go into a whole thing about Israel-Palestine because OMG, that's, like, too much for this, right? I think I kind of said the gist of, like, what I think is important and how I think Brittany could have easily had a dub with that, or at least addressed it in, like, the most, I don't know, fine way possible. You know, we care about the innocent civilians, we care about the people who are being unfairly harmed in a stupid fucking conflict. But again, it's like, it's such a complicated thing. It's like, I almost don't blame her for not wanting to touch it, but at the same time, it's like, I think we can all agree that humanitarian aid is, like, that's like a necessity either way. So I think the reason why that was so controversial is that like I said, she went on this whole tirade, and then she's kind of being a hypocrite, and then also this not fake, sorry, this video that she was going on and on about, like, how her followers just wanted her to talk on something that just because she had, like, a blue check mark and 1 million followers, and it's like, Brittany, I feel like you know that's not why people are asking you to talk about stuff. It's because there is a clip of you going on and on about how if you have a platform, you damn well better use it. And the thing is, I don't even entirely agree with that sentiment. And also, like, sidebar, this is gonna be super controversial, I feel like, but I feel like there's a double standard in how we treat male and female creators. Like, when they make the decision to not talk politics, I feel like people very much respect guys who do that, but then when, like, women do that, I feel like it's kind of different. And I am taking the Emiru, you know, talk about ICE, that cancellation that was happening, as an example. It might not be the best example because I don't know if I can think of anyone else at the moment, but I think that when someone decides that they're apolitical in their content, I think you're allowed to be. I think you're allowed to be. But people started taking her affiliations with Tectone and Asmongold, citing that as being her being like a secret conservative or something. I mean, I don't know. Could be. I think the truth though with Emiru is that I think she just doesn't know, or she just doesn't care about politics and the world around her. And I think she probably hears like the shit that Asmongold spouts, because as far as I'm aware, I don't think she interacts with Tectone or hasn't really interacted with him over a year. I don't know. Asmongold, I think they're still pretty tight. I don't know. I don't follow that circle too closely, but I also think that doesn't really reflect well on her. I think, in my opinion, everyone should be interested in politics. Everyone should have an interest. Everyone should be engaged in it. I don't think you necessarily need to have a platform where you talk about it, because if I'm gonna start being like, well, someone like Emiru, listen, I don't know. If you have a favorite VTuber, they're not political at all. Why not? It's kind of like draining to even think about. But my point is that I'm not gonna go and watch some famous VTuber, Pecora, let's just say. I'm not gonna watch Pecora and be like, man, Pecora is really not talking about ICE right now, and that really upsets me. Anywho, I'm gonna go watch Germa985. Guys, don't spam the chat about ICE in Germa's chat. Germa has blatantly said he is not a political guy. He doesn't talk politics. Like, why does Germa, one of my favorite streamers by the way, why does he get to sail away with no issues, no one arguing about him being apolitical, but then someone else is being dragged because of who they associate with? Well, if we're going to talk about who people associate with, which we'll talk about a lot in this video, I guess Germa associated with Hassan a few times. Am I going to start thinking that, oh, that must mean that Germa agrees with every single ideological viewpoint Hassan has? No, I'm not going to think that. I feel like that's insane to think. And, you know, if you want to see why I don't like Hassan, you can watch my fucking video on it, because I don't think I have any reason to like him. So here's where it ties back in with Brittany, I think. For me, anyway. I find it interesting that for me personally, I follow quite a few male creators who they also make mistakes, they apologize, they're hypocritical at times, tone deaf, and of course they try to make amends, and I think genuinely make changes to learn from their mistakes and do better. So why the hell, when Brittany one time makes a mistake, is a bit hypocritical, admittedly, why does that make me feel like going scorched earth on her and be like, I never want to see this person ever again? Maybe this doesn't apply to a lot of people, especially like people watching this video, but for me personally, it did make me wonder, like, why are female creators kind of not given the same grace as male creators do sometimes? Hassan gets so much grace. He doesn't even need to apologize for anything and he gets away with it. Trisha Paytas, I think lately her past is catching up to her, but I still think she also got away with a lot of heinous stuff for a very long time, because I guess there's excuses, I suppose. Whereas I think with Brittany's thing, there's not really much of an excuse and only just clips of her kind of being hypocritical, and people don't like a hypocrite. We remember the Pirate Software saga that's still ongoing, apparently. And people don't like hypocrites. But the thing is, I think it's kind of normal for humans to be a bit hypocritical. I think that that kind of just happens. And I'm kind of wondering to myself, like, if someone makes a mistake, and a very human mistake, why do I have to be so, like, all or nothing with it? Especially when it's a woman doing it. Because I feel like there's male creators that give so much grace, so many, like, they don't get it, maybe they'll change, hopefully they change, okay, they seem to have changed, I forgive. So it's just kind of an interesting double standard that even I kind of suffer from, and I guess I kind of was realizing making this video. I think it's understandable that Brittany was very, very frustrated in this whole thing with the Israel-Palestine stuff, because I think she was being pulled at in all directions from every side. She has the side where she has to be brand friendly, where I know how that sounds. It's like, oh, so you're going to be brand friendly instead of actually standing up for like what's right. Yeah, kinda. I think, yeah, kinda. When your job is being a creator, and someone like her who has people, employees and stuff, she probably has to think a little bit more about what these actions kind of mean and how they can be reacted to. And that's not a good, I don't love that, I don't like that, but I think that's kind of how it is. But I think that she was very apologetic, and I think she made a good apology. People thought that maybe it was too soon and it didn't seem like she'd reflected really, but I think to me it seemed pretty sincere, and I think that's like one of the only real like controversies or like mistakes that she's really made. And to me, I'm like, can I really be like that mad at someone who made one mistake? Because I feel like in my life, I would prefer if I make a mistake that maybe I could be forgiven. And I think I need to work on that in my own life, forgiving other people a bit better than what I do. I feel like for me personally though, that I've entered a world from being online like too much, where everything is just all or nothing stakes all the time. Everything is discourse, everything is drama, everyone's out for blood, everything is always assuming the worst, most terrible thing. The first thing you go to is the worst thing. And to be frank, I'm actually really sick of it, to be honest. Is anyone here actually happy about the way that the internet kind of makes you feel? And how being part of like this team sports behavior kind of makes you or becomes you. I don't think it makes me a good person, and I don't think it actually helps anyone. And the thing is, I've been aware of this dynamic about being so online, and it still has affected me. I don't think being mad at Brittany and cancelling her, wanting her deplatformed is the way to go. I don't think it's going to help the people who are Palestinians, people in Gaza. I don't think it's going to help anyone with that, if we're going to go back to that topic. But I get why people are angry about it. I get that emotions have been pretty high, especially over the past few years, and politics is really charged up and amped up, especially from the type of coverage that we receive. TikTok, everything. The misinformation that gets put out there, the way that news stations just like deliver fake news. Yes, I think it's a shame that the state of the world is so black and white, and we talk about nuance, but I think we don't do enough of it. So yeah, I feel bad that like her rant about like her venting about like how she was feeling was kind of released to the public. It was meant to be private. In saying that, there is another thing that's kind of like private of hers that was leaked that I think was another thing I didn't really like about her. So yeah, to be clear, I haven't watched the Broski report in like 5 months. That's when I stopped watching, and last night I actually decided to watch her latest one, have a look and see like where the podcast is at the moment and see like how she's doing, because I wanted to know if like maybe my problem was just like, okay, I'm sick of her content. I've just watched too much of it. Sometimes that happens. You watch someone like far too much and then you're like, I'm kind of sick of all this. And you just take a break from it and you come back. It's not a big deal, right? It shouldn't be a big deal. But I think this latest podcast episode, Big Summer Blowout, was actually really enlightening. I didn't necessarily enjoy it for like entertainment, but I think it was a interesting episode to hear like what Brittany had to say about her personal state of being at the moment. So she basically talked about how she wants to go on a big summer break and not make any content at all over the next few months. She's probably just trying to recover from what I think is burnout, which makes sense because she said that she accepts everything. She always says yes to things. She's kind of running herself dry. And although I didn't really enjoy the episode particularly, she starts it out how she does, like how she was doing them like 5 months ago. I feel like every single episode, she always either really hates her body or she also maybe really loves her body. And then when she really loves herself, she's singing. It's kind of annoying. I like her singing, but when she does like the random, like, it's a bit old. And that's kind of the running theme with all the issues I have with her as an entertainer, is that everything that she does feels kind of old. It's overdone. She continues to do she actually did the Dracula bit, which actually amazed me because I was like, girl, almost half a year ago, you were doing that exact same bit. Has she been doing it the whole 5 months since I've been not watching? Like, oh my effing god. The Dracula bit, like, okay, it's a bit old. Maybe put it away until Halloween comes back. Let people actually miss it before you start doing it again. I know, like, again, this is where I kind of have to remind you about the video. This is really just, like, my opinion and what I think. I'm not trying to do, like, a takedown video. I'm not trying to do, like, a, here's all the reasons why you shouldn't like Brittany Broski and you should stop watching. I'm really just talking about, and I guess kind of venting about what I think about it. It's just the same old tired bit. I'm sorry. And then she has the other tired bit, where it's not even a bit because it's real, I guess, where she's always like, I have a tummy ache and I've got to go diarrhea poopy. I'll be right back. I mean, I'm sorry, but I can't believe that she hit like 3 things in this video right off the bat. There were things that I was already so tired of 5 months ago. But there's an explanation for it, okay? What I appreciated in this episode was her talking about why everything about her feels so damn dry and boring, which leads me to think that maybe there's been comments and she's been reading them or something. It's stuff that I think I was kind of picking up on when I stopped watching all those months ago. And she went on a long talk about how she's exhausted by feeling like she's always being perceived by a third party. It's no longer a thing between her and the audience. It's like there's some third party, like the big I, that's watching and judging if she's like a good fit for sponsorships and celebrities, and is she controversial? Controversial? Is she controversial? Will she harm the brand? Yada yada. So it seems to me that there's a bit of an adjustment for Brittany, and given that her shows and opportunities have really blown up over the past year or so, I think she's meeting so many more celebrities now, she's getting so many more opportunities. It seems only natural to me that she is in this new territory where she's unsure and insecure of what she can and cannot do, and especially with the added weight of having a team that she has to pay and look after. So yeah, she, not only that, but she goes on and on about how she's working too much, she's doing absolutely nothing for herself, and of course she had to preface this whole conversation about her and how she's feeling at the moment with recognizing that she's privileged and that she's grateful and yada yada. Honestly, that's another thing that is so annoying, and it's not even necessarily about Brittany, but it's how she has to act because of her audience, and I just know that if she didn't preface this whole rant about how she's feeling with acknowledging privilege, etc., her audience would chew her the hell out for it. And I just think that's so exhausting as a viewer to even see. It feels draining watching someone try to think in their head of which in every way they could be misconstrued, taken out of context, misheard, and trying to catch as much as they can in the hopes that the comments won't be belligerent of all these misunderstandings. Like, hey, I like pancakes. Oh, so you hate waffles? It's that exact thing that I think is just like so damn annoying to even see anymore. And that's another thing about Brittany and her, I guess, audience that she's cultivated. I don't particularly like that attitude. And out of anyone, I think Brittany probably the most recognizes the privilege she has and the fantastic whirlwind of a life she has right now. I mean, to go from being the kombucha girl to being the next hot ones, that didn't just happen because like she's entirely lucky. I think that happened because she does have talent, and I think she earned that. So I think her needing to take a break right now and needing to relax and have some me time doesn't need a whole preamble about how she's self-aware of herself and her position and her luxuries. Like, yeah, taking a few months off doing no work at all, yeah, it feels like that's kind of a luxury, I guess, but at the same time, it's like, she has been working hard to bring entertainment to people. I just think that the whole preamble about it and acknowledging your privilege and yada yada, it's so exhausting to even listen to. And that's another thing I don't like, is that Brittany Broski, she's very audience captured. And we're going to see that later on, but that's something that I can understand. I can understand why she's like that, but it doesn't mean that I have to like it. When it feels like someone is afraid to push back or say what they want to because they're afraid they will lose numbers, that's when someone feels just very inauthentic to me. And if I feel like someone is doing a fake veneer of authenticity, it really turns me off of like watching them. It makes it feel like they're not being as sincere, if that makes sense. And I get that she's afraid of saying the wrong thing or being misunderstood, but I feel like it must be so exhausting having an audience like that. That's why I'm thinking of like Moist Critical at the moment. No matter how famous or how popular that guy got, he's never really changed up or switched up like how he does things. he's still pretty much like the same old dude from like a decade ago. And I find that's really interesting, but it's like, again, is it because there's like a higher degree that women are kind of put up to, that where like a man can kind of say do no wrong, be no wrong. I kind of wonder if that's like a thing that's happening there, but I don't know. I mean, it's also like Charlie is kind of like more of a fence sitter, as everyone calls him, and it seems like maybe that's just the way to go, because it seems like being a not fence sitter, it seems to make you just have an audience that either if you're with them or you're against them, I guess. So again, the audience, I personally don't like that. I really dislike the obvious brand friendliness, because I feel like when creators have to go all brand friendly, they just absolutely lose their voice, and I just don't like that. This is the sum of the video. I just don't like that. I think it's backed up, this feeling is backed up by this episode where Brittany actually herself talked about feeling like she had lost her own sense of self and her voice, like she can't hear her own voice anymore. And that does translate to me as her grappling with this new responsibility of having a team to look after, but also wanting to be your true self, but also struggling with the brand that you've cultivated, and that was based on you being an authentic individual. Something I am gonna have to disagree a bit with the online rhetoric about like disliking Brittany or whatever is male-centricity, being male-centric. I don't even know if that's a word. People have said that she's a little bit too male-centric with her content. I kind of disagree with that, or at least I kind of think that's like a nothing burger for me personally. I think perhaps she does kind of lean on it a little bit too much as a crutch, but again, I feel like that's kind of explained by her not really having too much other things going on in her life to really like talk about. That might be an oversimplification, but people also say like, oh, Brittany's a feminist and stuff, but she shouldn't be as fixated on guys and men. Like, men should not be the center of like what you talk about and what you do. And I think that when it comes down to it, I think Brittany is free to express her sexuality as much as anybody. I think that I'm personally not bothered by it, maybe because I am myself a straight woman, but I don't think it bothers me as much. I think it's also something that I don't care for as much either. I think she's built a persona of being this fangirly Tumblr type of girl, and it makes sense that she would keep doing that because that's who she kind of is. So, I don't know. I mean, it could be this like cultivation of an audience. She hangs out with all these like LGBTQ icons, absolute queens, and there's audience overlap because as you collaborate with other people, the idea is that your audiences kind of meld together a little bit. So it makes sense that some people think like, oh, this Brittany girl's really funny, I'm gonna go follow her. And then you're watching the podcast and you're like, she talks way too much about Timothée Chalamet, like, ugh, this is really annoying. So for me, I don't really have a problem with the way she expresses her sexuality, but I will say, you know what, maybe she does do it too often, and, you know, there are some other creators out there who thirst and having thirst moments over people. It can be a part of what they do, but it's not, like, central to what they do. With Brittany, I think you could argue it is maybe a bit more central to, like, how she is and what she does. I also have no idea how it doesn't make it super uncomfortable meeting these people that she thirsts over. That's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy they let her in a room with Pedro Pascal, but anyway. So yeah, I think she probably uses it as a crutch, but I don't think it makes her less of a feminist. I think that's a little bit silly in my opinion. Now for something that I personally don't care for as an Irish woman is the constant fetishization of Irish men. I feel like that's very weird and off-putting to me personally, but I don't think anyone really like ever talked about it or ever really said anything about it. So I don't know if I'm being too woke for this, but I feel the same exact way about like if a white woman is fetishizing like Korean men, which I know people who do that, and it's off-putting to me. I don't like it. I don't like really fetishizing any kind of groups, to be honest. So yeah, I get that she's male-centric, but my god, I'm fine with her expressing her sexuality as a woman, straight woman, but the whole Irish husband saga was pretty terrible, and I don't even know if it's still ongoing, but it is pretty hard to watch sometimes. Like at first, it was kind of funny. It was kind of like, ooh, a new bit unlocked, new thing. And I think it's been a bit more socially acceptable because I think if she went around titling her podcast, I found a black man, or I am officially black, yeah, that would be fucking bad. Right? It would be. I mean, it's nice that her hosier phase and Irish fetishization brought her to learn more about Irish culture, and I guess you can call it cultural appreciation, but it still feels a bit icky to me. I don't really like it. I don't like it. It's like she's taken like the Tumblr fangirl persona, which is fine, when talking about Supernatural and Destiel and Doctor Who and stuff, but bringing that to Irish Tinder is a bit different in my opinion. Just saying. And in saying that she's male-centric, I also think she kind of handles women differently to men, and not in like a good way. There was a time where Brittany was invited to go on the cancelled podcast with Tana and Brooke, and this was before the whole Brooke racism controversy. Tana said she would absolutely love to have Brittany come on if she ever felt like doing charity, and Brittany responded to her in text message and said that her fans would stab and grill her on a campfire if she ever went on the cancelled podcast, but she really, really wants to. But her fans would hate her for it.
I'd been seeing Brittany Broski on Theo Von, like a bunch, like all those clips, and it was so funny.
So
she did
funny.
Amazing. It was one of my favorite episodes of Theo Von ever, and I fucking, like, she's hilarious. I love her podcast. I texted her and I was like, I would actually fall over and die to have you on my podcast if you're ever feeling like doing charity, LOL.
I love the way you asked someone. Yeah, that's
I set it up very much like, you are so above this, but like if you ever wanted to come stoop down to the slums, we're here and we'd love to have you, Brittany.
Yeah.
Whatever. And she said, OMFG, you know I love you, but my fans would literally stab and grill me on a campfire if I did.
Stab and grill me on a campfire.
And then I said, why? And she didn't answer me.
I really love her. I think she's so funny, but that really bothered me, actually.
Of course.
I mean, that's...
Girl, I did not like that. Again, did Tana need to come out and spread all this like private stuff that's meant to be private and then give it to us? I mean, no, she didn't have to do that, but I can understand why she'd be upset about it, because Tana was also saying like, oh, you know, Brittany was just on Theo Von's podcast, so like, what is it different about Theo Von and like us? And I get a lot of people from all sides of the coin like Theo Von, but I think when you think about like someone like Brittany, oh my god. When Brittany went onto Theo Von's podcast, guess who he had already had on previously? Tucker Carlson of Fox News fame and glory. Robert F. Kennedy, the health guy in the government right now who's eating grasshoppers all day long. Theo had Jordan Peterson on. I don't think I need to go any further than that. And then 3 years ago, from when she was on, Louis C.K. was on there.
I didn't ask you to tell me the biggest fucking bummer news in the world.
Like, what the fuck, Brittany? What is going on? Theo Von, like, as funny as the guy is, he does rampantly platform fringe fucking weirdos. But, like, my issue here is more just, like, you're gonna go on Theo Von's podcast, but you're gonna say, oh, Tana Mojo and Brooke, I don't know what her name is, but Brooke, their podcast, ooh, I can't go and cancel because my audience will hate me. What the hell? I don't know. I just feel like that's so weird and like inconsistent. I don't know. How does she even know that? I don't know. It's so dumb. It's so weird. And like, yeah, I have to agree. Tana didn't have to call her out like that, but I also think that with knowing that, I can see why Tana herself was even upset about this, because it's like, well, why am I like forever just like the person everyone avoids? I don't know. I feel like I don't really know too much about like things Tana's done that's like, my audience will stab me and kill me if I go on a podcast. And maybe it wasn't even about Tana, maybe it was about Brooke, but even then, at the time, Brooke I don't think was even that controversial. So I think there's just a weird inconsistency about how that's handled. So I can see why Tana was upset and offended. I can see why people raise their eyebrows at Brittany sometimes and think about the way that she treats men compared to women. It was like another thing about how Brittany had treated Rachel Ziegler, I think in the Snow White movie. I can't remember the context, but she was going on about how bad like she has Gen Z face. She has like a bad accent in the movie, but then she couldn't stop going on about like the the male actor in it who was also like not good, but she was going on about how hot he was, and like I can see why people are a little bit like, I don't want to listen to this. I also had another point about like celebrity glazing that Brittany does, which again is a thing that kind of gets tired, but I think she actually recognizes that, and she addressed it in her latest podcast, saying she doesn't actually like want to talk about celebrities all day and is actually getting tired of it herself. But like she said, she's been pouring too much into everything else and not enough into herself. So I think that makes sense. It's kind of like when she's doing the podcast, I feel like there's that energy of like, I'm just trying to get through this. I'm just trying to be here. I'm just trying to do this. And I feel like I kind of picked up on it right as like the episode kind of started, but having her talk about like the hiatus that she's doing, to be honest, it was really humanizing for me to watch that. I thought that was like I get it. Like, I feel like we've all kind of been there with some way or another with our work, whatever work you do, where it's like, I'm just trying to get through this. As great as your work can be, work at the end of the day is like still work. And she has a whole persona and identity and brand built into being like a fangirl, like her show Royal Court, literally about making celebrities a royalty, fawning over them. Listen, I also like that. That's why I don't really watch it that much. Unless it's a celebrity that I'm really, really interested in, I really don't care to really watch it all that much. I'm not someone who watches like interviews between like actors and directors and talking about what are they doing? Oh, how was this movie for you? I really don't care about that shit because to me it's all like fluff. I don't care about it. It's so, I don't like it. I'm just not a fan of that stuff. So as you can see, I was really just more of a consumer of like the podcast that Brittany does, and also consuming other podcasts that she goes on where it's like with Caleb Heron and stuff, like where she's actually talking to other people, and it's interesting and it's funny. Maybe that's what she needs. Maybe she needs a podcast co-host because, it was really good when she was doing with Sarah Shower, but that relationship kind of really like disintegrated out of nowhere seemingly. I was so sad when that podcast dissolved because it was like, it felt like it came out of nowhere. And that's another thing that people kind of talk about Brittany, is that like the way that the Sarah Shower situation was kind of handled or whatever, people got a bad impression of Brittany as like a friend to people. And I suppose what I have to say about that, for context, apparently Sarah said at some point that the reason why the podcast came to an end is because Brittany had accepted a few too many like deals or something that interrupted the podcast, but she also accepted them without Sarah like talking to Sarah about it first, which is kind of like, I think that it was probably like a dick move to do that. And they were also roommates, right? They were roommates. They'd always joke about being like cousins and stuff, and they seemed to have a really good relationship, but sometimes it did feel like there was kind of like friction in some instances. And I think after Brittany moved out and kind of got her own place, she was always talking about how nice it was to be home alone. Everything is the way that you want it to be, and you don't have to worry about like someone harshing your vibe. You know what I'm saying? And I think that just makes sense to me. Like, as much as you might like a person, being roommates with someone you like is pretty hard. It's a pretty difficult thing because everyone is raised in a barn. When you're like living with people, everyone to you, they're like, you're raised in a barn. And then to them, it's like, this is just how I was raised. I don't know. So it's like, I don't think that situation has much weight to me, especially because it's like, listen, I feel like all of us, each and every one of us, we've had a friendship, a situation where things probably went sideways or we probably were dicks. I think you can't go through life and relationships without being a dick at some point. A dick? You can't be a dick sometimes. So, that's just the way the dick crumbles. Nice clean dick. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't care for like the whole persona where you're like fawning over celebrities and saying that meeting Harry Styles is like the bestest thing that ever happened to you. Like it's kind of interesting how it's like, I'm Brittany and I love like looking at all these different, like I love going to Paris and France and seeing the catacombs and stuff like that. But oh yeah, by the way, best thing that ever happened to me meeting Harry Styles. Like, it's just like the duality of it is kind of funny in of itself, but yeah, so I guess those are a few reasons why I don't watch Brittany Broski anymore. But I think with everything negative that I have had to say, I've had a mix of things I've said about her. I also want to put it out there that content creators, they're not infallible people. I think Brittany at the end of the day is just another human, just like any of us, and I still think she brings up important topics, and I like how her content has always made me think a little bit deeper about how I live my life and what I want to do. I think that, you know, some people say she's surface level, she doesn't really talk that much into detail, or she, again, she's like very into certain male artists who are actually very problematic, and she doesn't talk about their problems, she just talks about how great they are and stuff. I think that you're entitled to your opinion about those things, and for me personally, I think it's kind of complicated, especially when you bring out like we're talking about like Elvis and stuff, like people idolize Elvis, but you know, his past, yada yada. It's like, there is a thing where sometimes it's a bit difficult to talk about the past without having a 2026 lens on it, and I think people tend to be a lot more charitable to like their family members. Like, if you have, I'm not saying like your parents did what Elvis did, but I'm just saying that people talk about like age gap relationships or something, but then it's like, well, your parents probably had a pretty egregious age gap relationship, just saying. And I think people are way more charitable to their family and people they know. But then when you hear about someone like, I don't know, some like really old fart from like the 1800s who did this and that, and you're like, oh my god, why isn't she talking about this? It's like, I don't know, do your own research, guys. This is why you need to like not get all your information from one person. I think it's cool to have someone who's like a jumping off point. Like, I'll listen to Brittany talk about like, oh, I want to go here and travel here and see this and learn about this, and it's good to have a starting off point. It might be surface level, but hey, at least it's accessible to people, and then you can go figure out more of the details yourself. I think the beauty in a lot of stuff is that you can figure this stuff out yourself. You can buy books and learn about things yourself. You don't need someone to teach you how to do all this stuff or everything about it. Does she have a Wikipedia surface level knowledge of a lot of things? Her bit on her podcast is kind of just doing that, and I don't really have a problem with that. So while I don't care for her celebrity engagements or red carpet shit, I can see why she does it, and I'm sure her audience and fandom based audience, because she is like all about fandoms, I think they're all very into that, and you know what, that's great, that's good for you. I'm glad that she can do that for you. Again, it's very impressive to me that she is basically the new Hot Ones. I think that is a very interesting thing. I think that's very cool. I think she's doing something cool with her, you know, platforms and stuff, but it's just not my cup of tea, I guess. So yeah, making this video kind of had me like reflecting a little bit about the way I have been kind of treating this situation myself, and I thought that was interesting to share. This is like the first video in the series of why I don't watch this person anymore, where I'm kind of like, maybe when she comes back from her break, maybe I will watch her again. Maybe I'll give her another chance, because give her another go. And I don't say that to be all like, oh, well, you must be honored to have me give you another chance. I don't mean it like that. I just mean that I want to share this like idea of that you don't have to be stubborn and be like, oh, well, I don't like this, so I'm not gonna treat it any differently. I'm just gonna keep not liking it. And I think for me, it's like, I want to interface with the conversation, that, I guess, discourse I was talking about earlier, but I want to do it in a way where it's like, I don't have to just stick to one opinion about it, or the same opinion that I've had for the past 5 months. I think that, yeah, if it was me, I'd want to be forgiven. I would like forgiveness. And, you know, if there was like a pattern of behavior that I could identify that made me really, really, really not like her, then I think things would be a bit more different in this video. But I think for the time being, I'm like, okay, she hasn't done anything like heinously wrong. Like, she hasn't beaten up anyone, she hasn't essayed anyone, she hasn't done anything like really egregious. And like, I think about the people who I stopped following because of those things, and I'm like, why am I treating Brittany the same exact way as some other creator who has done those things? And like I'm just like, that's so crazy to me that I'm doing that. And so I feel like making this video has been a really good self-reflection for me personally to be like, you know what? Maybe I am kind of a problem with this. Maybe I am kind of crazy with how I've been treating this. Inconsistent myself. And that's why I'm like, you know what? She's been inconsistent with how she treats some things. Me too, I guess. I guess that's kind of what it is to be human. But yeah, again, to put it in perspective, she hasn't killed anybody, so why am I treating her basically the same way? That's how it feels like. And when you put it into that kind of perspective to me, it kind of makes me think like, yeah, I've really been online like too much. I've really been like too engaged in like this black and white thinking, I think. And I think it's fair that like sometimes you get bored of people and you don't want to watch them, and then you kind of start getting, like, I think once you start getting irritated with someone's content, it's time to just take a break. It's fine. Find someone else to watch and stuff like that. But I think that's kind of what happened for me. I was just like so sick of like the same old tired content. But I think with this latest video, she kind of revealed that there's like a pretty good reason for it. And I think that if she wants to take a break, she deserves to take a break. And so in the end, I actually hope that it's good for her. And yeah, like I said, I might actually start watching her again when she comes back. I might actually like feel it out, see how it is, because I'm kind of curious about it. I don't know, I guess with Brittany, I just like, I see her in a more of a human way now, and I feel like she is trying to do better, and I think she's had to deal with a lot of crushing weight of trying to appease her audience, but also grapple with being brand friendly. And you know, you can say it's like the fault of like how she's marketed herself and yada yada, but in the end, I don't think that makes her a bad person. And I think she's just another person who's navigating something that they're unfamiliar with. And so I think I'm going to give her a bit more grace and think about how in the future I might react to these kind of things and how I can maybe change that. I think that's interesting. And that's my honest opinion. So, yeah, if you don't watch her anymore, let me know why. Let me know if there's something that I didn't cover, something that kind of, you picked up on, something that I missed, and a reason maybe why you don't engage anymore. Alright, bye-bye!